Still sick, but I just had to belong and all that. And I'm not as stuffed up, but I still had to like stop today and pull my nose frequently. We managed to make a family outing today. We're gonna try and find Chris some character shoes. His feet are too big now. His size 4. Sheesh. He's 6. And he wants character shoes like Paw Patrol, but his feet are too big. So, yep. These shoes should hold up better than the last ones. They've got a little more stuff between, the feet and outward. He was at a weird size last time. And he could still technically wear that size. But this one gives him enough room on his toes. Still not much bigger, but I guess the half sizes. They didn't really have a lot of options whenever we went. So, these shoes have they're kind of getting a little ratty, so we were like, well, his toes aren't pushing up there yet, but it won't hurt. So we got him new shoes. Since we couldn't find character shoes, we let him pick a shirt. Then, got him a second shirt and a pair of shorts. And there was a lady at the store who was kind of really critical. I wanted to say something and Jean was complimenting her later, oh, she was so helpful, and I was like, she was not. She was pushy. I was like, you missed something in this interaction, honey. There was stuff going on there. She was pretty critical. See, we were trying to find a shirt that was long enough for him, and she started going off about undershirts and all this, and pushing this idea that he should wear an undershirt so that he can wear the shirts that quite frankly don't fit him because they're too short and he's too tall. But then that same size shirt in another shirt, she was like, oh, that looks like a dress on him. And I'm like, well, it's just long enough. She starts talking about tucking it in, and I'm keeping my mouth shut because at no point in time do I plan on tucking that shirt in. You just pull it out anyway. He can wear a longer shirt. It's not like it goes to his knees. It's not actually the size of a dress. If you were wearing a dress that short, well, let me put it this way. We wouldn't let him out in the house with anything that short. And if he grows up and he wants to wear dresses, we're not going to stop him. But we wouldn't let him out in one that short, that's for damn sure. It's a shirt. It doesn't even go past his butt. No, it goes slightly past his butt, but that's where it's at his butt. That's okay. He had a shirt before that was long like that. He grew. It stayed with him. It was a favorite shirt for a while. And then he couldn't wear it anymore. And I had to turn it into, an outfit for one of his stuffed animals. Because he did not want to get rid of it. The other shirt's fine. If he has a shirt that's long, it's fine. It's not it's not a hazard. There's this weird thing, for females, you can't find a shirt that long. I look for stuff like this. For me. And for Chris, because he grows tall faster than he grows wide. The kid's shorts do not match the size shirt that he wears. He has to wear different size pants because he is a tree. He is a beautiful tree, but this kid is a tree. And I like this analogy. Someone had actually used it while we were shopping for pants once, and we were like, these all fit around the waist, but they're all too short. So, we had some trouble with that. I was like, I'm just gonna have to alter this, get a belt for this. And there was a mom, and she was like, yeah, I had to do the same for mine. They're trees, all of them. They grow up, and they only grow a little bit wider. For every little bit that they grow wider, they go this much taller. So, he's pretty tall. His feet are big. And his waist don't really grow that much. He's got a metabolism to spare here. Anyway, we did our stock up on bread stuffs. Yes, I can make bread, but I cannot make the amount that we actually eat. And I don't mean me. Me, I can make what I would eat. I can make what even, 2 of us would eat, but then, 3 of us plus guests and, days that I'm too busy, it frees up my time, basically. So, what we do is, we get the day-old bread from the deli. We buy the day-old bread. It's still good. And then we freeze it. Now, the bread that they make still goes bad faster, and they do use yeast, unfortunately. But it doesn't have all the preservatives in it, and all the stuff, and the flavor, filler things. The things that aren't really good for human consumption. I mean, yeast really isn't either, but it doesn't have the other stuff. So, I just slice it. I slice it, and sometimes if, we can find them, we use the rolls that they, sell instead of hamburger buns. Or, I'll just slice it some bread. So, that's actually a time saver for me. Because I can make bread. But then I have to babysit it. And some of the breads that I make, they do have to be eaten quicker than the stuff that you buy in the store. So it's not like I can make a bunch of it and then be like, yeah, we can just have this ready for the week. So there are bright sides and downsides. Also, if I'm going to make fresh bread, it's probably going to be better warm, and they're probably going to eat it. There's nothing I can do about that. But this will take care of the rest of our needs. Well, I work on the stuff to get down there on First Fridays, and I'll probably have to sort of find a spot somewhere that they haven't rented out, because I won't be able to walk around the whole time. I've got a plan for a smaller project because I can't walk around carrying all my paintings. But I got the rest of what I needed for some wood jewelry. Some basic stuff. I've got the wood for some more complicated stuff. But I needed the simple stuff. I'm gonna have to do without the stuff that I need epoxy for because we forgot to pick that up. And it's kind of crunch time. So it's crunch time. I don't have time to mess with it. I'm gonna work with what I have at this point. But yeah, I ran out of epoxy. I used it all for, I used the rest of it whenever I was creating the bumps on the painting I did with the hand reaching out. Because yeah. Uh, I may have like smoothed that over with other stuff, but the bulk of that is epoxy. So, yeah. It took a lot of epoxy. We only had like the little one, that you kind of squirt it out, and it's a little one. It's supposed to be used for little things like jewelry and stuff. It wasn't a massive thing of epoxy, so we're out of epoxy now. So I'm gonna make some basic wood jewelry, do some wood burning, and see what else I have the time to do. I've been so sick. I have not been able to really work on stuff, and while I am still pretty sick, I feel pretty good about the fact that I can at least get enough of a handle on it. Now that I won't be like puking all over everything. And that's been my main thing, like I don't want to like puke on something that I'm spending hours on. And these are simpler. I mean, I'm still gonna have to price it to cover for materials and at least part of my time. But I'm not going to be spending 5 hours on them. Maybe an hour, 2, maybe. Depends on how intricate I get. Could go upwards to 3. I'm gonna try not to do that. Because tomorrow we got company. No, wait, that's Sunday. So tomorrow, whenever Chris goes to school, it's crunch time. I gotta start working on this stuff. Because I've been sick and I've lost time. And there's also sort of like an urgency because we're trying to prepare and be prepared. Because while the check that we're gonna be like doing rent for is gonna have like the full hours, they're trying to cut like people's hours. So it's like even more important that I manage to do something and sell something. But I'm not gonna like go out there and sell something that's not worth buying. So I'm gonna probably focus on the wooden bracelets and wood burn, and then I'm going to weave the strings for them out of embroidery thread that I still have. And that's the plan. Hi, Luckies. Hi, Luckies. But, since I've basically lost my place at the studio because of that stuff, there's nothing else for it. Just, we'll have to, as soon as Chris gets off the school bus, gonna have to go. I'd rather make it earlier, but that's not really an option. They don't have early release on Fridays. And even if they did, no. So, hey. Rat. 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 What? 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 Hey. You either want me to pet you or you don't. There is no in between. He gets mad at me whenever I stop. And then he's like, you bite me, I stop. He hasn't actually bit me. It's more like a love nipple. Like, there's no biting down. There's no pain. It's just, keep the sharp, pointy side of your teeth off my skin. He's not trying to, like, hurt me. I guess that's a weird thing most people don't realize about cats. Anyway. What? He's getting mad at me every time I stop. But then, like, he's in one of these moods. So, anyway, I guess, that's my plan. I might take a couple of my paintings, but, like, then it's, like, a major pain in the ass. Because I don't have the money to even begin to apply for a booth. I wouldn't even be there in time to set up. I have to be here to get Munchkin off the bus, and then I'm on the bus. So, what you gonna do? I'll talk to Jean. Maybe we'll do a lift if we have to, but if I don't think I'm gonna make enough to cover it, we're not gonna do it. I haven't done First Fridays long enough to have a really good feel for when you have a good chance of selling or not. But I might also look into when there's like an anime convention or something and do some wood burning for that. But yeah, right now my concern is selling what I found. Basically. I'm gonna save the glass carving for now. Because that takes a lot longer and it's not something I really want to carry around. It's easily broken and it takes a ton of time. Because, you know, if you do it wrong, you chip the glass and all this other crap. And, you know, you can outright break it. So, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I don't want to lose it because I'm carrying it around. I don't really have any of my tiny pieces of, you know, the glass carving yet. Sorry, I don't really have the tiny pieces ready. Those usually get snatched pretty quickly. I don't have the time to do them because they take a lot of time to do. Because I'm basically making tiny carvings on glass. So, usually the small stuff for me goes quicker than the big stuff. To be honest, it's also kind of cheaper because it takes less time. There was this one piece I was particularly proud of where I basically took an old glass bottle and made it look like a flower, sort of, in the carving. And the carving was really detailed, and one of the tools that I had for that actually broke after that. So I couldn't define stuff quite the way I wanted to anymore with it. So I had to, like, change techniques. But I actually ended up giving that one away. The person I gave it to appreciated it a lot. It was, you know, I didn't really have the money to go out and buy them a present, and they were someone who weren't really allowed to accept expensive gifts anyway. So I was like, well, I decide what this is worth. So yeah, it was something that I was pretty sure I was just never gonna get what it was worth anyway. I spent days on it. I spent days, like 3 days on that fucker. Just because I also had to like grind down part of it, and then I had to like reshape the top. I got really into this. Like, this was something I got really insanely detailed on, and it took me 3 days. I've never told her that, and I'm never going to, because then someone might start arguing that it's worth more. Truthfully, if you factor in my time, that's 3 days of work. The materials didn't cost much, but it was 3 days of work. So, glass bottles are the easiest thing to work with. As far as carving goes, they're not really meant to be. This isn't like the special glass that you melt, to make glass pieces, and that is a special kind of glass, by the way. It is not meant for this. This is meant to be the final product. It is not easy to work with. So sometimes it takes longer. There are people who they're like, oh, just breeze through the snow. No. You do not breeze through carving glass. It is something that takes a very careful hand. And there's this one tool that we got that was supposed to be especially for it, and I was like, this is bullshit. Because it is the worst tool I ever had for carving glass. And I was like, no. And the type of carving that it was meant to do, whenever you really looked at it, wasn't true carving. It was basically just drawing on glass. So I was like, this is just bullshit. Because it only really works if you barely even touch it, and all you want to do is do the same thing that some people do with chemicals. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm actually carving into the glass. I want people to be able to touch it and feel it as much as they can see it. So I work with this a lot differently than just that. I mean, there's if you were blind and you picked it up, you could use your hands to see it. Basically. There are different textures and different indents in it. There's a reason for this. I don't use chemical stuff. This is not frosted glass. The only frosting that gets done is me with a Dremel tool. Using a softer, tool to kind of go over it. I don't use any chemicals for it. There's no chemicals whatsoever. I manually do that shit. Because there's different textures that I want. Because I want it to be touchable. Now, my paintings, on the other hand, are not so touchable, but some people aren't so respectful. Paintings are not meant to be touched. So, there's been no shortage of times that I've had, kids come up and, touch it, and I'm, trying to, politely stop them. And their parents will be just as disrespectful, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I see the problem here. You have zero respect for anyone else's hard work, don't care if this kid scratches or damages it, and you have no plan to pay for it if they do. Do you even care that this painting is, massively underpriced? Because my jewelry is arguably underpriced, but I'm at least charging what it costs to produce. When I am doing my paintings, I am not charging what it costs to produce. I am not charging what it costs to produce. Unless you want to pay me that, don't touch them. That's pretty much it. Unless you have already bought it, don't touch it. Because if you damage it and then you try and back out, I can't. You've just damaged my shit, and I spent so much time on that. As much as I love painting, I do not love sometimes how people don't really respect it. They just don't realize that this still has a lot of time put into it. There are paintings that I can point at and I can say, yeah, this didn't have a lot of time. As an artist, you can sort of look at some of it and say, yeah, this has more layers, you can tell. And then there's stuff I'm like, fuck this. But it has to work for the piece. Like, I have a black and white one. It takes a lot less layers to do what I did in black and white. But I usually paint in colors. Lots of colors. So, you know. It takes more sometimes, depending on what I'm trying to do. And I paint in layers. I use cheap paint. So arguably this even takes me longer because I don't have the money for expensive fake paints. So I buy the cheap stuff that your kids are supposed to be using in school. The stuff that they sell in the craft aisle in Walmart. And I use that to do this, 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 this. I actually delved closer to realism with this one. I don't usually. And I've got this massive one right here. I've actually had someone snub my work because is it oils or acrylics? Like, unless you want to pay me hundreds and hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands, especially for a piece this big, don't ask me that question. Because as much as I like to paint with oils, I don't have a sponsor. Some artists do get sponsors. Most do not. And unless you are willing to pay me for that kind of work, don't ask me that question. Because I'm capable of it, and I love to paint with oils. But it is one of the most time-consuming things that you can do as far as painting goes. Those old videos that you watch of that guy painting the happy trees and stuff. Each layer takes days to dry. Unless you want to pay me for how long that thing takes, don't complain if I use acrylics. As much as I love oils and the textures that go with it, I can do the same thing with acrylics if I have the right ones. Oils, yes. Technically that's more durable, I guess. The acrylics, if you get the right ones, they're kind of... I used to have these, growing up that my grandfather used to get me at the craft store. And they were kind of like weird, oily ones, like, they were supposed to be like a weird kind of acrylic, so they were thicker. My grandfather complained to hell because they were also expensive. I have always liked my textures, so it's no surprise that as a kid I did that. So anyway, this was no bueno. And I cannot afford these. As a kid, I did not fully appreciate the cost. As an adult, I do. So, yeah. So, yeah. My kind of have to pay for it. I don't do much in the realm of watercolors. I don't really like it. I actually kind of prefer oils, but again, they're really expensive, and unless you want to pay me for it, don't complain. Because I guarantee you, my acrylic paintings are actually pretty low priced for original pieces, and they are all original pieces. I don't copy anyone else's shit, and if you're copying my shit, you need to stop and not do that. I will sue your ass. I will find a way to sue your ass, because all of my stuff's original. Unless, I'm saying otherwise, and I will always say otherwise. I've seen so many artists who are just copyists, and they're not telling people that that's what they're doing. This is wrong. You shouldn't be doing that shit. So, and when you get caught, you're gonna get in a fuck ton of trouble. So, don't do that. Fan art is its own kind of ball of wax. That's why I was talking about that earlier. That is like the only thing I can vaguely accept, because you are paying for the work that the artist did, and generally speaking, it's a labor of they're not going to charge you what it would really be worth. And generally speaking, unless somebody is like, usually there's a certain level of either the people who made that stuff are allowing it or they're not. So it gets complicated. But you should always credit anything. If your work is inspired by somebody else's, you should always credit them. If you are using someone specific who is actually putting their stuff out there for references, always credit them. Always. I may not be a popular artist as far as like online and stuff, or really even well known, but this is something that I do. Something that I've always done, both with my digital art and my physical pieces. If I am using someone as a reference, like there's this one really good one, Senshi Stock. Okay, I will not puke. This is mind over matter. If I pause, don't think about it. Don't think about why. So, Senshi Stock is really good. They've got a good kind of like store of this stuff. They got some premium content that you can kind of order and pay for. Then they've got some stuff that they post up on DeviantArt. Anytime I've used any of their stuff for post references, and that is all I have used it for. I think way back I used some stuff for like practicing photo manipulation, but then even then I ended up like going off in a whole different direction and doing my own stuff with it. But even then, I made no money off of it. I was very careful about that. If you are using someone else's stuff in that capacity, you are actually taking their image and using it. Do not make money off of it. Or, pay them and have that agreement with them that this is okay. But most of them that kind of post stuff like that on like DeviantArt and stuff, it's more practice. I had the software at the time and I was practicing. Again, I'm not really into realism, so I was taking things off in another direction, like there were fairies and lights and all this other stuff. And I don't care much about making it look realistic. I can. That's the thing. And I have literally like drawn stuff on the computer, just drawn it, painted it straight up on the computer, and kept it just up so that I can just link it every time somebody gives me shit. Because I get so bored with realism. It's so boring. For the sake thereof, it's kind of soul-sucking to me. If this is like something that you're using artistically to make it pop, great. I don't care. That's your thing. Sometimes I even do that. But, some people have not gotten to that point as an artist where they can understand that art is art. And there are the people who are bullshitting you because they're really not capable of doing better, as far as by your standards versus realism. And then there are people where really that's just their style. I'm that person where really that's just my style. I'm sorry, but I was more capable than you when I was 12. So, if all you can draw is stick figures, don't be dissing my shit. Now, there was someone who did that, and that's what I felt like saying to them, but they were also like 10. So I told them to ask their art teacher. And I was fairly sure that their art teacher would be just a teensy bit more kind to them. Because I did not want to destroy a 10-year-old on the internet. A 10-year-old will destroy you, but, if you destroy a 10-year-old's, they could be, destroyed for the rest of their life. So, don't lay into a 10-year-old if you know that they're, 10. If they are, in an adult forum and they're identifying as an adult, obviously you can't know that they're 10. But, because this is anonymous. And they're presenting themselves as much older, even if... And, unfortunately, there really are adults who lack maturity, so they can actually kind of play this off. So, before I respond to stuff like that on DeviantArt or anything, because I still have that there, I always make sure that I check their age, because a lot of the artists on DeviantArt are a lot younger. You have a lot of kids on there. DeviantArt is horrible for selling your art. Absolutely horrible. But whenever you are just trying to network with other artists, it's okay. It can be okay. Can be. It can also be a pain in the ass. It depends on where in the community you're sort of putting your time and energy into. I've not actually posted my stuff on there in a while. So, I've mostly just been sticking to my Tumblr. I've got, some random posts of wordiness, some poetry, lyrics, random stuff I recorded that I wrote songs and sung them. I've got that on there. I've got my art process, some doodles, some scribbles, paintings, all that stuff. But as far as that goes, I look at it and I'm like, this can't look impressive. Because, literally one of them I was like, I scribbled on my phone, it kind of looks like something, here it is. I may actually draw this later, but this is it for now. Because I didn't really have anything else to post today. That wasn't actually today, but that day. And I was like, I could draw this comic, but... Well, I can't say I didn't see that coming. Still, that escalated quickly. Anyway. Okay. Thought I was done, but I wasn't. So, done now. I made damn sure. Alright, so... also trying not to cough. A lot less easy to lose it if I don't cough. But also after that it kind of loosens up a lot of stuff, so. Also it's really sore. So it helps. At least a little bit. So anyway. Yeah. I guess that's sort of like my artistic brand to do. Anyway, my Tumblr probably isn't impressive or anything. Sometimes I do something like, I did some props, but it was like tweaked props because I didn't want to do magical girls for everything. And one post I randomly saw somewhere was from someone that, had favorited something of mine. I was like, oh, wow, she's an artist too. So I went and I looked and I was like, hey, props. And I didn't actually initially realize that it was Magical Girl. That's what I get for not. I was like, oh yes, props, ideas, stuff that I can post on a regular basis, and yeah, it ended up like not. Yeah, there's nothing left in there to come up, so I figured that was all it would be. Also, I made sure even before I got back on here to it was longer than you think. I made sure. I don't want to throw up anymore. So yeah. Now I'm losing my thought. It's been too long. It's like trying to catch a moment. Nope. I'm not singing right now. I have that horrible sick person voice. So no singing for me right now. It's hard enough for me to sing anymore. Because I didn't just have to recover my vocal cords. They didn't just have to recover and heal. My voice was completely changed afterwards. Well, a good deal of it anyway, and I had to re-get used to the changes. And then sometimes, some of it, still is healing, even years later. That's how extensive it was. So, yeah. Not even gonna try right now. I used to, though, growing up. I did. There were times whenever I was sick and I was still performing in the choir. If I had a solo, I still had to do it and I still had to make it sound good. And I was considered pretty good because I could. Now, though, there's too much I'm compensating for. So if I'm like this, there's too much I'm compensating for already to sing whenever I'm like this, and actually, no. Because it actually takes a lot more control to control my vocal cords now and keep them in tune. And if I'm horribly sick on top of it, that's not gonna happen. So, I will never, make a career out of being a singer, as far as putting on shows and stuff. I'll never be able to, and even if I did, I wouldn't be able to schedule it a year out or something. It would have to be hey, I'm not sick right now. I can totally do this. And I'm not a spur of the moment person, so I don't know. But the chances of me ever being scouted would be slim to none. I don't have the body for it. I don't have family connections for it. And literally, there's no reason that they would even look my way. I'm not skinny. I'm actually pretty fat. There's no reason that they look my way. They look for skinny little things that they can sell sex, not their voice. So I've seen some really amazing singers just on YouTube and stuff, and they will never get scouted because they don't fit this image. They can sing circles around these people who are getting scouted, but they will never get scouted because it's not about talent. These companies do not scout people for their talent. They scout them for marketability. I am not marketable as far as like they're concerned. So even if I was able to get up to a certain standard with that, back up to a certain standard with that, they would never scout me. I have no illusions about this. I'm not going to get scouted. As far as my music goes, I mean, maybe if I like tried to apply myself to the type of music they want, as far as songwriting or lyrics and stuff, but no, I have no interest in doing that. And I don't mind writing a song for someone else to sing, like adapting it to their voice, but I have a serious problem with selling my soul to a corporation. So yeah, I've said it before. I watched this destroy my mother, and she was just the fucking secretary. But the agreement that the company made her sign claimed everything that she could create or invent ever. So she couldn't even do personal stuff without the company claiming that they owned it, that it was theirs, basically that they owned her soul. Because that's what you're doing whenever you do that to creative people. You're basically saying, we own your soul. I can't do that. I have no illusions. I watched my mom crumble under that. And I watched her refuse to create anything for years afterwards, because the agreement that, is in the fine print that you don't see until after you